Here you can see that I got a photo frame like structure. Now what I want to do is I want to add in texture to this, but I want to add in a picture on the center, and over here on the sides I want a wooden texture. To do that, I can use something called the UV editor. So I'm going to select my object right here, and now let us go to the UV editor, and for that on the layout panel right here I'm going to select BP UV edit. Once I do that, my UV layout actually comes up, and over here you can select the cube right here, as you can see. Right now everything is blank, as you can see, because everything is not mapped well, so you cannot actually see any representation over here. So you can see that show UV mesh is actually turned on, but no UV representation is actually there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this out. So I'm going to select my UV polygons, and over here I'm going to select everything out. So I'm just going to select everything right here, make sure everything is selected, all the faces, all of the lines right here. And now what I'm going to do is let me just shift select all of these, and you can see that all of them are selected now. Now what I want to do is I want to do something called optimal mapping. So right now you can see that there's a chunk of square right here, but once I click on optimal mapping, and if I were to click apply, now you can see that the pieces of the UV are actually divided like here. So if I were to click this, you can see that this edge is selected, and if I were to click over here, for example, this edge is selected. So all of these are representation of how this object is right here. For example, this one is this area right here, but you see that all of them is not selected yet, so the bottom one is actually not there. So let me use my selection tool right here to make sure all of them are selected equally, just like this. You can see that all of them are selected. Let me hold shift, select the side as well, let me press apply, and there you go. Now I have all my saves. You got the frontal frame over here, you got this, and so forth. Now what I can do is I can take this into Photoshop and then start painting them. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a new texture, and to do that I'm going to go to file right here, and here you can see that there's an option to create a new texture. So you can select the resolution of the image that you want to work with. Right now it's 1024 pixel, which is a bit less if you ask me. So let me go for something like 4000. So 4000 by 4000, this is the exact square resolution. So if you want a very detailed image right there, you can actually do that. You can also name this out. So I'm going to name it like photo frame right here, just like this. I'm just going to say photo frame, and I'm going to press OK. So the new texture is made, as you can see, and the gray layout is there. And now I need to create a mesh layer. So I'm going to go to the layer right here, and I'm going to create a UV mesh layer. So let me just click on that, and a new UV mesh layer is created. And now you can see that the layers is here. So what this helps us to do is, once we actually export this into a third-party application like Photoshop, I can see the outlines. So now I'm going to go to file, and I'm going to click on save texture because I want to open this up in Photoshop. So I'm going to say save texture, and over here you can see that I can save the file as, and I'm going to save it as a PSD file. So it supports all the features. So I'm just going to press OK, and now I can save this file. So I'm going to go over here onto my desktop for now, and I'm going to save it out. So it saves my texture right there. So if I were to go to the desktop right here, you can see the photo frame. So if I were to open this out, let me just open that out, and it loads up the texture in Photoshop. So okay, I'm just going to ignore the profile, and it'll open up the texture for me. And now you can see in Photoshop the layer is here, and you can see there's lines right here which represents those faces right there. So let us just go back into Cinema 4D, and let's use these as a reference point. So I want a picture over here, so I'm going to select the face just like this, and this is the face. Rest is where I want the wood texture. So I'm just going to go back into Photoshop, and now I'm gonna fill it especially with the wood texture. I can also change the color of the background to make it much more easier. So if you don't know how to use Photoshop, you can check out my Photoshop tutorial in my playlist. So I'm just going to color this black so that the lines are much more visible right here. So let me just press Ctrl D to actually deselect that. So now over here I want the picture, so I just want to fill this up entirely with the wood texture. So now I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Place Embedded right here, and over here on my drive, let me just see if I have some UVs right there. So I got some UVs, as you can see. So I'm just going to use this wood pattern right here. So let me just click on place right here. You can see that it is quite small, but anyways, let me just enlarge it. Usually it's not a good idea to enlarge such wood. Anyways, I got this out right here. So let me just place it all over on my canvas right here. So let me select all of it. I created duplicate of this. Let me just duplicate this out right here. Seems like the image is not seamless as it is. So I do need a seamless image if I want it to be much seamless. But anyways, I'm just gonna go ahead and use this. So I'm just gonna go over here, and then I'm going to click and hold Control. Just drag it at the bottom, hold Alt to make a copy, and there you go. So this is filled up with the wood texture, as you can see. So now let me just keep the layer at the top. I'm just going to use this as a reference because I want a picture on this section right here. So I'm going to go to File right here. I'm going to go to Place. I'm going to go to File, and over here I'm going to Place Embedded, and I'm going to choose a picture of my choice. So I'm going to go into picture right here. So let's see what I can use. So I can use this picture right here. I'm just going to import that out. I'm going to resize this out and just make sure that it is there. So just use this as a reference point, just like that. Press enter, and there you go. So once you have all of the texture right there, there you go. So that's the image, and everything else is used as the object. So I can turn off the UV mesh layer now. So this is my UV. So I'm going to save this. I can save this as a JPG. So I'm just going to go over here onto desktop. Instead of Photoshop, let me just save this as a JPG file, and I'm just going to save it as at maximum quality. All right, I got my UV texture right there. So now what I can do is I can go back to my Cinema 4D, and what I can do is I'm just going to go over here onto the cube. I'm going to apply a new material to this. So I'm going to double click. Here I have a new material. So now I can drag in the material onto this object right here. And then on the material, I can simply add in the object. So let me just double click over here, and then over here on the texture, let me just click here, and then on my desktop I have my photo frame. So let me just open that up, press yes, and that texture will be loaded just like that. And you can see, voila, the texture is right there according to where we actually looked up. So if I were to press Ctrl R right here, it renders it out. Okay, not rendering it out quite well right here. So I'm just gonna go over here, press Ctrl R. Okay, not rendering it out for some reason. Anyways, I'm just going to render it out from the regular view then. So I'm just going to go on to standard right here and then render this out over here. And there you go. There's the rendered version of the object right there. I can add in some details onto this as well actually. So I can go over here. I'm going to go to knife tool. I'm going to press K for that, and loop tool. And let us add in some loops over here to give it a bit more detail. I'm going to smoothen everything out. So I can go over here. You can see now I can click over here onto the side. I got my loop over there as well. And over here onto the side as well. I'm going to add in loop over here and loop over here. So once everything is done, I'm just going to go on to the subdivision surface. And once you go over here onto the subdivision surface, you got the smooth look just like that. So if I were to render this out, press Ctrl R, you can see that it is right there, just like that. You got this out right here. You got all the details, everything according to your UV. So just like that, you got your UV right there. So that is how you can actually utilize a UV. So if you want to move the UVs over here manually, you can do that as well. So for that, let's go back to the UV edit panel right here, and you can see that the faces are still there. The subdivision actually does not increase the number of faces right here, but you can see that the details have been added just like that. So now I'm going to go on to the UV section right here, and here you can actually select the tools. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go over to the selection tool right here. Let me just select this out, and here you can see that I can select everything just like this. And if I want to move this out, I can use my move tool right here to move that out of place. And you can see that this is how you can adjust the texture. So usually what I like to do is I do not like to do it with the subdivision on. So I'm going to turn off the subdivision first. So I'm just going to uncheck the subdivision. And let me just bring this out of the subdivision area itself. So bring the cube out of the subdivision, and let me select the cube itself. So let me just go over here onto the cube right here. So let me just select the cube, and seems like it is not selecting the object over here for some reason. All right, there you go. So just select the cube. Let me just press Ctrl Z a few times so that it actually goes back. All right, anyways, I'm not going to do anything right there. So here you can see this. So I'm going to go over here onto the UV selection tool right here. I can select out these tools just like this. I can hold Shift or Control to deselect that. So let me just select this out over here. So Shift select and Shift select this as well. And I can use my move tool right here to move around this. So you can see that a lot of cool things can be done. And we're going to learn more about this in the further lesson. So I can also use my scale tool right here to scale this out to increase the level of detail onto the UV just like this. So you can increase this out, and you can see that the level of detail actually changes accordingly. So if I were to move this out just like that, I can do whatever I want. And there you go. So that's how you actually work it out. So I can make it smooth, and there you go. So that's how you can use the UV editing tool and manually add in textures to the places where you want in Cinema 4D. Hope you guys learned something as always. And as always, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.